I should have stopped. I knew that. But the more we kissed, the more I let myself forget the consequences. It felt too good, too real, too intense. It was like I had finally come alive. It had been years since I first donned the scrubs of a nurse, and in that time, I thought I had witnessed the full spectrum of human emotion. From moments of pure joy to heart-wrenching sorrow, I had seen it all. Yet, nothing could have prepared me for the day Dylan was admitted to the hospital. My name is Sarah Gray and I'm a nurse. This is my story. He was unlike any patient I had ever cared for. Young, in his early 20s, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through me. He carried himself with a certain charm, an easy smile that caught my attention from the moment I walked into his room. The first time he looked at me, I knew I shouldn't feel this way. It was unprofessional, inappropriate. But the way he smiled, his confidence, his mischievous charm, it all made my heart race in a way it hadn't in years. I told myself it was nothing. He was just a patient, and I was just doing my job. I had to remain professional. But the more I cared for him, the more I saw of the man behind the patient. And the more I found myself drawn to him. There's something about being so close to someone who's suffering that can stir emotions in unexpected ways. Dylan's condition wasn't life-threatening at the moment, but there was a sense of fragility about him, an aura that made him all the more magnetic. I tried to keep my distance, telling myself that I couldn't cross that line. But as the days went by, I found it harder and harder to ignore the pull between us. The days following Dylan's arrival at the hospital blurred together. I tried to focus on my tasks, maintaining my usual professional distance. But there was something magnetic about Dylan, something in the way he looked at me that made my heart race. It started with small moments. A glance that lingered just a bit too long. A smile that felt more intimate than it should have been. I caught him looking at me when I wasn't paying attention, and every time I looked back, his eyes were always there, watching me, studying me. I had no idea what he saw in me. After all, I was just a nurse, but something in the way he held my gaze made me feel seen, in a way no one ever had. One afternoon, while I was adjusting the drip beside his bed, Dylan spoke softly, his voice carrying an undertone of mischief. "You know, I think I'm starting to get used to you. You've got a way of making this hospital room feel like home." I forced a smile, trying to keep my voice steady, but inside, my heart skipped a beat. "I'm just doing my job, Dylan. I'm glad you're feeling better." But as I moved to leave, Dylan's voice stopped me. "Wait." I turned around, meeting his gaze. His eyes were darker now, more intense, and for a moment, I could have sworn I saw something else. Something more than just admiration. My pulse quickened as he reached out, gently taking my hand. The simple touch sent a shiver through me. I could feel his warmth radiating through his fingers, and it was as if the air between us grew thicker, heavier. "You're beautiful." The words were unexpected, and yet, they seemed to hang in the air, suspended between us. My breath caught in my throat as I fought to maintain control, to remind myself that this was wrong. But when he looked at me like that, with such intensity, it felt impossible to ignore the pull I felt toward him. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm your nurse." But even as I said the words, I felt the walls I had built around myself start to crumble. His hand remained on mine, his thumb brushing over my skin in slow, deliberate circles. I felt the heat of his touch seep into my body, a sensation I couldn't deny. And just like that, the professional distance I had carefully maintained felt like a distant memory. Later that evening, I found myself back in Dylan's room. He was resting, his eyes closed, but when I entered, his eyes flickered open, and there was that look again, that quiet, intense gaze. I felt a rush of warmth spread through me, a wave of desire that seemed to come out of nowhere. "I'm glad you're here." The words sent a jolt through me. I should have said something, anything, to break the spell between us, but all I could do was nod, my voice caught in my throat. I'm just checking your vitals. But as I moved to check his heartbeat, something shifted. Dylan's hand reached up, gently cupping my face, and for the first time I didn't pull away. His touch was tentative, like he was testing the waters, but I didn't pull back. The room was quiet except for the sound of our breaths, the space between us narrowing with each passing second. Then, without another word, Dylan leaned forward, his lips brushing against mine in a kiss that felt like an electric shock, sending a flood of heat through my body. I froze for a moment, my mind screaming that I should stop, that I shouldn't be doing this. But my body didn't listen. Instead, I leaned in, my lips pressing more firmly against his, deepening the kiss as I felt him pull me closer. His hands moved to my back, pulling me toward him until I could feel the warmth of his body against mine. I had crossed a line that I couldn't take back. But in that moment, I didn't care. All I could think about was how his lips felt against mine, how his touch ignited something in me I hadn't felt in years. We stumbled back toward his bed, barely able to keep our hands off each other. My heart raced, my breath shallow, and my mind was a whirl of confusion and desire. I knew this wasn't who I was. I knew I was risking everything, but the pull between us felt like a force I couldn't fight. I should have stopped. I knew that. But the more we kissed, the more I let myself forget the consequences. It felt too good, too real, too intense. It was like I had finally come alive. Dylan's hands roamed over my body, gentle but insistent, as if he couldn't get enough. My uniform felt like it was suffocating me, and I allowed him to pull it off, the fabric sliding over my skin. I felt exposed, vulnerable, but in that moment, I didn't care. All I cared about was the feeling of his hands on me, the heat of his body against mine. "You're perfect," he said. I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breath as he kissed my neck, his lips hot against my skin. Every touch, every kiss, sent shivers down my spine. It was like nothing I had ever felt before, a whirlwind of emotion and desire that made my heart beat faster. And now that he is inside me, he was gentle and slow with me. It was huge that I ever imagined. And then he moved fast, faster than someone who is supposed to be sick. He moved back and fought while I grind with it and follow every rhythm. It was as if the universe wants us to be alone at that moment. I enjoyed every bit of it. I haven't felt this way in a very long time. When it was over, we lay there in silence, our bodies tangled together in the sheets. I could feel the weight of what had just happened pressing down on me, but at the same time, there was a strange sense of peace. In the aftermath, I felt conflicted, guilty, yes, but also, alive in a way I hadn't in years. There was a part of me that knew this was wrong, but there was another part of me that didn't want it to end. The days that followed were a blur. I found myself walking a tightrope between guilt and desire, torn between the professional boundaries I had once sworn to uphold and the irresistible pull Dylan had on me. Every time I entered his room, the air seemed to thicken, charged with the unspoken tension between us. But as much as I tried to keep things under control, our secret moments continued. Dylan had a way of making me feel alive in a way that no one else ever had. He wasn't just a patient to me anymore, he was something more. He was the man I had once thought I could never have, and now, he was someone I couldn't seem to walk away from. One night, I was sitting by his bedside, reading his medical chart. He was asleep, but I couldn't stop looking at him. His features were so serene, his lips slightly parted as he breathed. The room was dark, save for the soft light from the bedside lamp casting shadows on his face. It was then that he stirred, his eyes fluttering open. He looked at me with that same look, gentle but piercing. "I miss you." The words hit me like a wave. I had been avoiding him all day, trying to keep things professional. but hearing him say that, it broke something inside me. I moved closer, unable to resist. His hand reached out to touch mine, his fingers brushing against my skin with a tenderness that made my heart skip a beat. I shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be doing this. But Dylan didn't respond with words. Instead, he gently pulled me closer, his lips capturing mine in a kiss that was slow, almost reverent. The warmth of his body, the way his hand rested against my back, pulling me closer to him, it made my heart race. He grabbed me and cut me to the wall. He came in from the back, his big tool going in and out gently. I was dripping and begging for more. I knew this was wrong, but I couldn't help myself. It felt like nothing else mattered in that moment. We had been tiptoeing around the truth for so long, but now, in the quiet of his hospital room, it felt like the only thing that mattered was him and me, together. After that night, I couldn't seem to keep my distance. Our secret meetings continued in the shadows of the hospital, during late-night shifts when the halls were quiet, and the world outside seemed a million miles away. But even in the secrecy of our affair, there was a tenderness between us that I couldn't ignore. Dylan wasn't just a fleeting moment of passion, he was someone who had changed me, made me feel things I had never felt before. Yet, with each passing day, I could feel the weight of our secret pressing on me. The guilt I had pushed aside started to surface. I knew that I couldn't keep going like this forever. It wasn't fair to Dylan. It wasn't fair to me. One evening, after one of our stolen moments, Dylan looked at me with a seriousness I hadn't seen before. His gaze was heavy, like he was carrying something that he hadn't shared with me yet. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." I froze, my heart skipping a beat. I had never seen him look this vulnerable before. "What is it? What's going on?" He took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly as he reached for mine. His touch was shaky, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes. "I'm dying, Sarah." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from beneath me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't process what he was saying. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" His eyes filled with tears as he spoke the words I never wanted to hear. "I have terminal cancer. They gave me only a few months to live." The world seemed to stop spinning. I could feel my chest tighten, the air thick with the weight of his words. I reached for him, pulling him into my arms as the reality of what he was saying crashed over me. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't want you to stay with me out of pity. I didn't want to burden you with my sickness." I closed my eyes, feeling the tears spill from my own eyes. It wasn't pity. It was love. And in that moment, I realized that everything I had been feeling wasn't wrong. It was real. I kissed him then, not out of desire, but out of love, because I knew that time was slipping away, and we didn't have forever. I whispered into his ear, my voice full of emotion. "I love you, Dylan. I love you more than anything." The next few months were filled with a mix of heartbreak and beauty. Dylan's health continued to decline, but we made the most of every moment we had. We laughed, we cried, and we shared everything we could. I held his hand through the good days and the bad, and though I knew the end was near, we lived as though it wasn't. We spent our time reminiscing about life, talking about dreams we never had the chance to pursue, and finding comfort in each other's arms. It wasn't just the passion that I had initially craved, it was the connection, the deep emotional bond that we had built in such a short time. One quiet afternoon, Dylan's condition took a sudden turn for the worse. I sat by his bedside, my heart breaking as I watched him slip away, piece by piece. His once bright eyes were now dull, and the strength he had carried so confidently was fading. I held his hand, whispering words of love and comfort into his ear as tears fell onto the pillow. He squeezed my hand one last time, and I knew he was gone. I left the hospital that day feeling broken, but I knew I had to keep going. Dylan's love had changed me, and now, I had to honor that. I spent the next few months grieving, but eventually, I found a way to heal. I began volunteering at a local soup kitchen, helping others who were struggling, and in doing so, I found a new sense of purpose.